Welcome to Aleatory Encounters, a SteinerBooks podcast. What you are about to listen to is an audio snapshot of an in-person human conversation that took place here at our offices in Spencertown, New York. In this episode with Cesari Ciaglo. How do you say Mephistopheles?
Mephistopheles.
Mephistopheles. And in English, Mephistopheles.
Mephistopheles, yes. That personality being a character for two beings. In the first chapter of the Faust, is more Luciferic character, creating chaos, creating situations for you that you are not able to live in such a world. Yeah, that you have communism, you have North Korea, you have Soviet Union, you have China presently. It's all Luciferic impulses that create social unhappiness, so to say, and all those things. Mm-hmm. And the ideal of Lucifer is to destroy this world. And we are done with the evolution of humanity as a earthly humanity. So I wouldn't be afraid that Americans will use atom bombs and weapons under influence of Ahriman, because Ahriman wants to preserve the world totally atheistic, but physical world for his aims about the future of humanity. Like in Soviet Union, you have on one place Luciferic mysteries. There are lectures by Steiner from just after the revolution in Russia, bringing all the deep knowledge about the mysteries of evil in our times.
Are these the lectures published as behind the scenes of current events in
Right.
Secret Brotherhoods and the Mystery of the Human Double?
Yes. He speaks there about the occultists of the left, of the dark path of the Indian esoteric or secret societies, is this. They will bring an individual that will probably have some kind of spiritual teaching into greatness, so that he becomes a teacher, like we'll say Sai Baba or Satguru or whatever they have. People like them. And then the problem starts when they die. So their ether body, which means the entire memory of everything they created, they said, or they have written, and so on. So that ether body, with all the insights, becomes a body for a very high demonic Luciferic being. That Steiner described, incarnates into that ether body, and in the outside world they create a cult for that personality, even before that personality dies. But especially after the personality dies, people are bonding because they have pictures. You have pictures of that personality or sculptures. People cultivate that personality after death, thinking that this is incorporation of Shiva or something. But in reality, the Shiva that they cultivate is a demonic Luciferic being. So with Lenin, it was similar. They created a cult for the personality of Lenin. Lenin as an image was everywhere. Behind the Red Army in the Second War. Big pictures everywhere. Nobody ever read Lenin, but everybody said whatever he said is true. They have his thoughts. I will give you an example of such a thought. But behind that you have this interest of a spiritual being that wants to bring illness and destruction and suffering into the world. Lenin said this: all your talents come from your body, and all your needs come from your body. So the state and government will give you the possibility to develop all your talents that you have that come from your body. So we will have free education for you. You are talented into ballet, then you will have ballet dance. If you are a musician, you'll be musician. Mathematician, you'll be mathematicians. We help you. But they are not spiritual abilities. They are all coming from your body. And the same with the needs. They didn't fulfill all your needs, but the milk and bread was kind of for free almost. You could eat as much bread as you want in the Soviet Union. Nobody was hungry in that sense.
I was really interested in the imagery of Lenin because I had never thought of that before, but I've seen that. I know that everywhere the leader was present, in every building, in every schoolroom, in every classroom.
For 60 years. And then he had another more Ahrimanic procedure done with his being, enslaving him as a spiritual being, the Lenin, through mummification. So they make a mummy out of his body. And the Egyptians did that to bound the spirit of the pharaoh into the earth for 60 years.
That is,
That Egyptians did that for 60 years. So you couldn't have that being bound for longer. And if you don't have that being bound, both ways, luciferically, as the demonic luciferic being in his ether body, but also his spirit connected to the physical body, They did that with Disney, They put him into the freezer, So this poor guy cannot go anywhere. But look what terrible powers go through that Disneyland, especially 1998, when the Disney pushed the government to make the internet as a medium for entertainment, because it was planned to be only news and encyclopedic knowledge, help for humanity. You have libraries and books, but not entertainment. So 1998, it came the entertainment, and humanity is enslaved now. It's bound to something that is transitory. You are sitting on the internet for 8, 10, some kids are sitting 18 hours. So, it would be interesting to know why that was so important in Russia, that the Lenin spirit was still alive for so long. And they still have the mummy. He is still not dissolving, so to say, physically. I don't know what kind of mysteries are done there. So with Mephistopheles it was different, because first Gretchen has to die. This is all the luciferic consequences. Terrible mess what Faust did under that influence. But then also you have the second part where you're glorious. You are surrounded with all these leaders of the industrial forces, all these fascists that are running the world government, What do you call them in America? The 1%, or whoever they are. So he was on the court of the prince. He did some magics. He was able to bring something from the spiritual world into the physical reality, but in the wrong way, in the magical way. It's a good example about that kind of forces being used for physical profits is the school of Gurdjieff. Gurdjieff was typically an Ahrimanic teacher, beautiful so, and he actually gives method how to work with Ahriman, be strong, Ahrimanically strong on the earth, and use his spiritual powers to become strong in the physical world. I went through Gurdjieff's techniques and all those things. Total discipline. Ahrimanically. Do it today, not tomorrow, but violently. Those are the people that meditate for 5 hours a day. Ahrimanic, totalitarian towards themselves. Discipline, eating only at that time, waking up 4 o'clock in the morning. Like, the executives in the Wall Street, they work like crazy to make money. So that kind of strength can come, but naturally we don't want to compromise those forces on behalf of only physical success, because that's the wrong thing to do. I'm just unfolding that thought we started with Mephistopheles. And Steiner speaks about it, the Bolshevism, and then there's fascism on the other hand, which is, terrible. It's more related to the Aramanic. You know?
Fascism as a sort of the marriage of corporate greed and government
in
power.
Our times,
or corporate. Yeah, I mean that was the definition in the during the
fascism
Second
means
World
you
War.
have a stick, and if you don't do, you will have to hit you in the head, like in Zen Buddhism. Yeah, so that's what they will do in a fascist society. You know, if you don't do what you are taught to do, then you will be punished. Yeah, brutally. So you have to. That's what's that totalitarian impulse. So, but then, like in communism, you know, North Korea, you have nothing, you eat grass, but you're happy. And that comes from a great ideals coming from England, from one of the communist leaders. His name was Engels. Engels said this, in contradiction to Luther or Calvin: human beings are primarily, essentially, good beings. And if you create for them the right social situation, they have house, they have something to eat, they have the basic for their existence, then they will be good. And that was the ideal of the communist governments. But it did prove the theory is good. It's right. Steiner speaks about it. This is theoretically right. But it doesn't work. The capitalism is not right theoretically. You cannot have freedom in economy. It's nonsense. Yeah? But it works. To a certain point.
So there's a truth there, but it's mistaken because...
It doesn't work. They have these ideas. That is Engels. Everybody will be happy. You have nothing, you don't own anything, like in East Germany, yeah? But everybody was kind of happy because you pay like $50 a month for your apartment.
But where's the culture?
Culture was there too. Came from Russia, because you see, the Russians didn't take the communism. It was not dangerous for them. They suffered for Americans. Because Steiner speaks, for Americans, communism will destroy the culture. Completely, spiritual annihilation. So other folks, like Slavic folks, took up to sacrifice something and give Americans a break, that they create something spiritual at that time, through all the 60 or 80 years. And what they created for us in the 80s, after 84, guess what? Americans gave to Poland, to Russia, and to the whole world of the communist countries as a spiritual gift. Videos.
Movies, American movies.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I'm talking a lot, but we started with the spirit of Mephistopheles, so here's the consequence of that question. So to myself, my grandfather read me always the stories of the saints and the Old Testament stories. All those beings were present in my life as a child. In Poland, when I went to my grandparents, we have little chapels everywhere, with Madonna, with Christ, with saints. Yeah, I truly believe that in these small, very small little places, you know, you look to the windows, that these beings were there, everywhere for me. They were there. And I have some meetings as a child, kind of physically, spiritually, but also then I have my period of being atheist after reading a book by Erich Fromm about the art of loving. He practically said in one sentence, is important in this book: human beings created God because they felt alone in this huge, infinite cosmos.
Yeah.
which is nonsense because people didn't know that they are in the huge infinite cosmos up to the Renaissance, when Galileo Galilei and other colleagues of him told the world, come on, the blue of the sky is not the end of the world. And the black of the sky with those little points of light that you think that God walks and with his stick and make holes for the light is not the end of the world. There is infinity beyond those blue and black coats. They call that coats of Mary or whatever they called that. And in our times, we also live in dark ages in relation to not infinity, because that's done, but to eternity. So people are living now between the birth and death. Exactly as primitive as people in medieval times, thinking there is only black coat and blue coat. And we have to open those gates. Somebody has to come like Steiner, Galileo Galilei, Rudolf Steiner, or Copernicus, Rudolf Steiner, to tell the people, you're wrong. Before the birth is eternity, and after death there is eternity. There is a whole huge reality there. So if we don't do that step in our times, we are done. We are done. So, and not even the step through the death, because the churches or religions, they became insurance companies. They sell you the eternity. Yeah, and they say we have only one life, and you come to us, pay us a lot of money, and we assure you, like Calvinist church, you will go to eternity. They don't want you to know about spiritual world after death.
Well, many people are asking these questions now. They're searching.
Yes.
And so that can only be a good thing, as long as it's not subverted or sensationalized. I mean, with the reality that the work has really been done. Like Steiner's earliest work, even just this little essay, which I want to bring back into print. It was just a little booklet, this little maybe 2-part essay that he wrote about the scientific basis for an understanding of reincarnation. I mean, he really is this Galileo Copernican figure where he's saying the reality is bigger than what we think, but it's not something that's out of reach. This is an open secret. There's no secret anymore.
Right.
This is reachable by anyone practicing unprejudiced thinking, informed by scientific thinking, which we all are now.
Right.
Whether we're scientifically trained or not, we're immersed in understanding reality in this method, but it can go further, and it's right in the hands of everyone in order to do so.
Right.
And maybe someone will have an epiphany and take this up just by hearing you talk about it, because I've never heard it put so succinctly and well, that the gates of the universe were open to infinity, and now we're cloistered in this illusion that our life begins at birth or conception and ends at death, and then there's hellfire or heaven, right. Or there's nothing. Yeah.
And yeah, that's what make me for a while being an atheist. Why should they be evil and go to hell? So when you're a God of love, just create them good. By the way, a Luciferic thought, just make them all good. But Lucifer doesn't want a love that is worked for. Yeah, that is, you own that through sacrifices and all this whole world to develop a love to others. This Manichaean path to conquer the evil with good. There are many riddles we cannot. Oh my gosh, if you would want to talk with me about everything, we will have to spend days. I started when I was 14. My mom gave me the book from Blavatsky and Collins and these 3 booklets, The Light and the Path and the Feet of the Master,
and
the 3, and the Voice of Quiet, of Silence. And I read those, and I was fascinated with the statement there in the first page that we have astral body and mental body. I never even thought about it. And the astral body is the body of feelings, and the mental body is the body of thoughts. And that was an absolute revelation for me, that we have body of feelings, not just muscles for the ballet, but actually have body of feelings. And I have body of thoughts. It is a body. I own it. I have all my thoughts. That was amazing. And then I understood those books. I don't understand them now. And also Bible. I met special situation in my life that then I have my first Bible when I was 16. And then I have understood. I read only in the beginning the Solomon's Proverbs, and then Solomon's, after God took the wisdom away from him, because Solomon misbehaved. He slept with the girls that were not Jewish. So God took the divine wisdom away from him, but he has still the human wisdom, and he speaks there as Kohelet. I was the king of Israel. And he called himself the priest of the king, or the Kohelet's book, the Proverbs by the Kohelet. Did you ever read that? The book of Kohelet, the king of Israel. And this is a beautiful book. You know, something that is straight cannot be curved. And all this going for wisdom is just what God gave us to suffer. You cannot change the things. You know, this is all human, beautiful human knowledge. And there is no greater wisdom that people will have as a human being out of their own heads without God than that book tells us about. And then I have other situations that I was connected with spiritual things, with every single possible spiritual movement in the world. Yeah, between my 17th and maybe 23, 24. All the yogas, I was part of a special society in Poland. They called that psychotronic society, or the society where everything spiritual was accepted, you know. Everything that was not Catholic Church. The Tibetan Buddhism, all the yogas, you have kahuna magic, you have Castaneda, you have all the American channeling things and clairvoyants and spiritualists and clairvoyant people and healers and whatever you want. And I went to most of the courses for free, because the president of that society was a friend of mine, and he was also musical director in my theater. Anyway, I met great people. There were great people in Poland. In 1980, after the change with Solidarität, we have freedom, and we started a small youth group, and we started with anthroposophy. 1980.
Was that included in the psychotronic?
We met in that society, like 50 people, with from different streams. Even Alice Bailey, you know, at some point, the Ahrimanic New Age, they call that, stream, you know, of spiritual lies, but very fascinating, amazing, some of the books. Anyway, and I had a gift from spiritual world that in all those yoga systems that I take courses in with all these gurus, there are great gurus that came to Poland. They just have their people in Poland and they all came there. So I could experience the essential in their yoga path. It was the Tantra yoga, or the Brahma Kumaris, or all the other yogas, you know, Raja yogas. And could, so to say, touch the being and see what they bring to the world. They bring good things, you know. You don't own them. Because Kundalini is a spiritual force that is not eternal. It gives you an evolution, or gives you a development for many incarnations, but it's not eternal. You can jump over stages of development very quickly and become really great. but it is not yours. So in all the times, in order to develop your spiritual organs to the Kundalini, you needed to have the path of moral development. Yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, all those things. So you cannot steal, you cannot kill, you cannot do anything. And at the end you have to be able, when you experience spiritual things, to be able to let go and don't bind yourself to it. So you can ask yourself, this path of the 8 yoga elements of development, you don't need to do more than that, in a sense, yeah? Why should you have more? But, so they prevented those people, the guru, the right guru at that time, could prevent you from failure of developing these organs wrongly. In our times, nobody can prevent you because the gurus are amateurs. Or they are bound to irregular beings. You have somebody like a spiritual being that is Ahrimanic in nature. And he is an archangelic being, supposed to be, but loves to live in the human body. Yeah, physical human body. So incarnates always in the human body. And then his students, and they have this feminist mantra, Om Namaha Shivaya. I give my eye to Shiva. Yeah, so I become once with Shiva. And what is his name now? I forgot. So his student was Yukteswar, and Yukteswar's student was Yogananda. Yeah, they come from, what is his name? A great, you see, I have amnesia. That's a name. Because Satya Sai Baba is sitting in my head, and this is nobody compared to that being, that guru. He was also involved in creating in America this rebirthing. Yeah, anyway. What was his name? But I will remember maybe in a second, I'm sorry. But they are great spiritual beings, like Yogananda himself, yeah. But he said in his autobiography that he met with Christ. But he didn't accept him. He didn't like what Christ brings. So he stayed with Luciferic impulse or with Shiva. So they are all those movements I participated in. And I could still stay myself. I receive a lot of gifts from those movements, to my knowledge. It seems like they respect you because you're anthroposophist and you are discreet, so I will not go around and criticize them. So you can receive the knowledge about them, to know who they are and what they want and what they do. And many other spiritual things. We even did some magics. Not a good one, of a kind of shamanistic kind, I have all those experiences, but that only helped me to see what is in the world now. How those things from the 70s are now reborn everywhere, all around the world. And people are attracted to that. But our responsibility as anthroposophists is to bring that into the world for those people that are longing for spirit. And tell, well, you can do yoga, you can experience that, but pay attention. You could go into space that you will not have anything after you die. Yeah, it all becomes a food for some kind of beings, They want you to be idealistic and have all these virtues, but you will not have them for eternity. The only power that comes for eternity comes from Christ, or from what Jewish called the El Elyon, God of all gods, yeah, the one that Moses met, not Yahweh, it's higher God, or they call different names, yeah, Vishvakarman or Vishnu or whatever you want to call them in different languages. Our responsibility
Where do you think the audience for that is?
Well, there is audience because you see them in those institutes in summer when they go to study yoga and other things.
Uh-huh.
There are millions of young people that are longing for spirit. You can have this experience of the Holy Spirit and something staying in you permanently. It's not like with yoga. You have ecstasis, you have incredible feelings, like in Tantra yoga, you can go up to the moon, yeah, from pleasure. But after 1 hour, it's gone. And you will sit to the end of your life meditating to have that again. Yeah, it's a little scrap of Luciferic spirituality, like for the dogs, and they give you that, but what do they take from you? You see, Luciferic beings are retarded beings. They are beings that came very high in their evolution, too fast, and then they didn't go back. Like you meet in anthroposophy, Steiner speaks about the guardian of the threshold, and he tells you have that big level reached, but other people were working for you. So will you be able with your greatness to come down and become a simple human being again to help them? And people say yes to that or they say no. So one will become the Padre Pio, with stigmatas, an initiate of higher level that goes down and suffers, being practically killed by Catholic Church. And then you have somebody that stays on the heights, and Christ speaks to that person. You will not be able to go with the evolution of the world. You will stay in that place. So they are losing their eternity through that decision. And they become retarded being or the being of opposing forces, because something that was good at your time is not good anymore in the future. So you bring that something and you create disaster with your greatness. So they want to pick up on their evolution through human souls, because we still have the eternity in us, that spark, that eternal star in us. So they can suck on that and give us scraps. That's what happens. Steiner actually gives everything. Yeah? Mm-hmm. Try to treasure that and learn how to use his methods, or use his knowledge to develop your own methods in the spiritual research and spiritual development. Know where you are. I mean, that spirit that I am speaking out of now lived in Poland in the 80s, in young people, many of us. Yeah, and then slowly dissolved. But then we have Idriat Festival in Budapest. People from all East Bloc youth came. Mm-hmm. Beautiful meetings, beautiful friendships. There are people somewhere, and they're called now the oldies. And we have all those great people. You know, in Budapest there was Kulewind. In Germany there was many beautiful people. You know, they were like even. I met only one time a German initiate. But we have in Poland one. You can always recognize an initiate. When you met one, then you know when you meet the second one. Mm-hmm. Because there are certain things they do.
I wonder, too, the young people who have grown up in this sort of psychic, Luciferic, Ahrimanic environment of the internet, sometimes from a very, very early age.
Right.
How does this generation of youth, is that a mark that is on them for the rest of their life in some ways? Or is it something they can emerge from? Can they find the fire of spirit when they have sort of these weights on their wings, so to say?
Well, there's in Sweden, it was a book that appeared, They Have Seen Christ. So it's an aspect in our times that the so-called etheric Christ, of like Catholic call that the merciful Christ, and they have their revelation through Sister Faustina. Great movement. They are not anthroposophists, but they are under influence of the etheric Christ. The same with those Protestants that have seen the Christ. And They don't talk about this revelation to anybody. Usually that did happen when they were in the very low place in their life. Like no hope. My life just finished. And then they have this vision, this appearance of Christ.
Mm-hmm.
In Poland, in the Catholic Church circles, because we have Catholicism in Poland, there are many people that have the etheric Christ experience. There were many people before the Second War that already had that. So these people live so that their lives change, and they don't talk about it. So you will not have knowledge about their experiences. But their lives change and they do something very positive in the world. And the stream of grace is working through those people and through those movements. So Christ is not only coming to anthroposophists. There are not many anthroposophists that have experience of etheric Christ, but comes everywhere. That's one impulse. Another impulse is that Steiner gave, what does the angel do in our astral body? That should be studied. And as to individual human beings, how they relate consciously with their higher self, what Thomas of Aquina, he called guardian angel. It's the angel in us, or like people say, Buddha in us, the potential. But it's a real being, spiritual being of our own higher self. Doesn't incarnate, but it works from, we are only an image of it. You know the text by Steiner about it, yeah? I look now into the darkness. That's a beautiful text, actually, that speaks about that being. So, if we have the right relation, that you become human being that is intended by the higher spiritual beings. And Steiner speaks, if we don't do that to the end of 20th century, then we will live in the world where the truth will be understood as lie, and the lies will be taken as truth, where the evil will be thought that is good, and the good will be thought as evil, where healthy will be taken as illness, and illness will be thought it is health. So here we go. We have to confront the evil or whatever, the unhealthy and all those things, to learn through tragic situation. Otherwise it will come in the Jesuit way, which we have now, DEI. So you have the equity should be in the political sphere, diversity in the spiritual sphere, and inclusion in the economical sphere. That's the three ideals that should be in the right place. Because Ahriman has to do what Michael tells him to do. So these three ideals have to live, but he's doing that in an Ahrimanic way. We should have them, but in the right place. Not in the body, diversity, in spirit. Mm-hmm. There's two different things. It's all made physical. Mm-hmm. And you have to do it. That's the Jesuits' way. And we will use all methods possible to make you do it, because it's good. That's what Jesuits did. You have to. And on the other hand, you have all those people that create new bodies and technology because Steiner said, what you think about yourself, starting with the end of 19th century, you will become. So now my interpretation, Lenin cannot be born as a human because he thought that he is a higher animal. So we have to have a body of a higher animal. So how to have a higher animals instead of humans? You have to manipulate in laboratories the genetic system of humanity, to allow those people that live now to have bodies that are appropriate to what they think about themselves. So you will have half machine, half human. You have clones that cannot incorporate in human ego, kind of group souls and whatever it will be. That's what humanity is dividing. And Steiner spoke about it, that this terrible being that we still have in us will become a physical appearance. And they will become a kind of apparatus of evil. I think lectures by Steiner, which one you read or not, is your destiny. It is amazing how some lectures come to you at the right time and give you the knowledge that you always wanted to have. Mm-hmm. And then it's questionable for me, do I need to talk about it, and what is my responsibility? You give a book to somebody because you think it's a good book for that person. And now what happened? After you die, you are judged by the angels first. And they will tell you, Cesari, did you give this book, How to Know the Higher World, to that person on May 15, 1982? And I cannot lie to an angel because they see into my ether body. So, yeah. Well, what happened, Cesari? He did not read it. If he would read it, he would have chance to do something out of his life. If you would not give it to him, he would not be guilty of not reading it. Now he is guilty of not reading it. He made a decision, and he will be punished for that, Cesari, because of you did. And we have to punish you too for giving books that you don't take care for that person. You can give the book to somebody, say, let us meet and maybe talk about it. Or do something the way that people are asking you for it. Mm-hmm. But don't push yourself with your knowledge always, because we are not like Jehovah's Witnesses going around and saying, here's your insurance for eternity. But we have to be tactful. And even say, I think the good path for you, if you would take some little text from Yom Kippur book, there is a beautiful text for you there. You're Jewish. Or to yoga person, I will know how to direct them into right place in the yoga. Because that's what they live out of. And we have to trust that spiritual beings will take care of that. Mm-hmm. So you have to respect their path. Yeah? And know the language that they speak to maybe wake up the impulse to become a human. Because that is already Christian path. It can be called 1,000 names. Yeah? Yeah. So the anthroposophical impulse is to give people a chance to become human in any way they can, and we have our understanding of other religions out of anthroposophy. And be careful that you don't compromise that impulse that came to you, and recognize which gift you have and why don't you use it.
You've been listening to Aleatory Encounters, a SteinerBooks podcast. You can find more about what we do, what you've just heard, and the books we publish at SteinerBooks.org.